Now, it came to my attention yesterday that a man by the name of Stuart, who's a hotel owner, was not terribly happy with his lot in life. And I can't say I blame him, because basically he sent out a tweet in which he showed a load of people busily shopping in a local supermarket, not social distancing, all touching various products before not putting them in their baskets and taking them or putting them in their trolleys. My hotel, he says, is COVID compliant. Guests sanitise their hands. It's a one-way system. They're 2 metres apart. It's 100% table service, but we're forced to close. It's not fair. Stuart, a very good afternoon to you.
Afternoon, Mike. Thanks for having me on. So my hotel in Birmingham, yes, we are in Tier 3, and my one in Kenilworth. We went from Tier 1 in my other hotel to Tier 3. So we went into the restrictions in Tier 1 and came out in Tier 3, which, again, doesn't make any sense at all. It just seems to be the restrictions being imposed upon hospitality just completely unfair. They're unjustified, and any remaining life in the sector is just completely being squeezed out of it.
Right. And it doesn't seem, as you say, fair at all, does it? Because if you are COVID compliant, as all the places that I've been to since March, which have been open, are, you know, I mean, Michael Gove this morning was talking absolute rubbish when he was on with Julie Hartley-Brewer, saying that he'd been in a pub recently. We were trying to find out when it could have been, where people were standing at the bar, ordering drinks, moving around. I mean, every pub that I've been to since its opening in July, you have sat at a table, people have come to your table, you haven't moved around. It's very, very safe.
Michael Gove is talking absolute nonsense. What we need in Parliament, what we need now is a minister in Parliament representing our industry.
Yeah.
Because, to be honest, they haven't got a clue. They really have not got a clue. I mean, guests would walk into our hotel. They're greeted with a masked COVID-compliant member of staff. Right. We have a one-way system. They're taken to their tables, which is socially distanced and bubbled accordingly and appropriately. Right. They will order their food and then they leave out the one-way system. There isn't a safer place right now to be than in the hospitality industry. And again, what people seem to forget with hotels is the fact that most of the bars within the hotel are actually lounges. Right. So it's our venues are 100% seated. And the government are telling us, they told us before that, you know, when the curfews came in, and we took 70% of our trade between 9 and 1 a.m.
Right.
They told us at 10 p.m. we had to kick all our guests out and they had to go and sit in their rooms.
It's madness, isn't it? It's just madness. And it doesn't seem, I mean, also there's no evidence, by the way, Stuart, for any spread of COVID specifically in hospitality situations. I mean, there just isn't.
Again, try and look at the evidence, and I looked at the evidence that the government released last week, which was the transmission risk in the hospitality sector. And I actually thought it was a spoof. I honestly did, because there is no evidence other than, it seems to be their evidence is based on, well, if it's happening in Indonesia, then we'll just copy whatever they're doing over here, because there is not one shred of evidence. I mean, I think that the cases within hospitality was 2%.
Yeah. I mean, it really does beg a belief. And the video that you posted was shot, I presume, in a local supermarket where, I mean, people are wearing masks. But as we've been talking about this week, you know, who knows whether that makes any difference at all. We were saying Lewis Hamilton appears to call COVID. Every time you see him, he's wearing a mask, you know, so I don't know what that's all about. But you know, we've got a very busy shop in your video that we see. People walking very close to one another, because I think one of the things actually about people wearing masks is they think they're okay to walk close to you now.
Absolutely. And it's, again, if you're sat at a table and you are socially distanced, how is that, you know, how are you more vulnerable sat at a table as opposed to walking through a supermarket? And so I think most of us in the industry, it just doesn't make sense. Nothing adds up. And without that financial support, the sector is going to go crashing. It's going to come crashing down.
It will. I mean, have you been able to be open since July, basically, until this most recent lockdown?
Well, interestingly enough, we did open, and we had a quite encouraging August, and we thought fantastic. But then all of a sudden we started to hear sort of speculations of curfews, and instantly people started to cancel. And again, a lot of people don't talk about Manchester. Not many people talk about Birmingham. Yeah. Huge hospitality sector. It's catastrophic what's happening in Birmingham right now.
Well, I must admit, when they announced last week what the tiers were going to be, I was quite shocked that Birmingham was 3.
Well, do you know what we lost initially? We lost bookings. We lost 70% almost overnight of any bookings that we had, and then obviously we've spent the past few weeks now. As soon as it was announced that we were in tier 3, we've spent the past week just cancelling reservations. I mean, it's so disheartening.
Yeah, and is that? I mean, were you having people staying there as well?
Yes, people booking and staying at the hotel. Right. I mean, what the government don't seem to realise as well, if you're going to have a busy Christmas, we're advertising in September.
Yeah.
And you're building up to Christmas. You need a good Christmas to survive January, and you need a good Christmas to survive February as well. Without that, January and February is hopeless.
Yes. And what level of compensation are you getting as of tomorrow when you're supposed to shut?
Well, the government have offered £3,000 a month, and if you think about it, just basic costs for us for one hotel is £20,000 a week.
Wow. And is that paying all the staff, paying all the bills and all the rest of it?
Yes. Yeah.
Right. So you've got to make that before you're in the black, as it were.
Yes.
Right. That's extraordinary, isn't it? I mean, this is the bit that you don't get, and this is why I was so incensed when I heard Michael Gove talking this morning, because I'm of the opinion that most of these bozos in the cabinet, certainly, I know there are other MPs who are better than this, but they don't go anywhere. They've never been in a pub or a restaurant that's not in Westminster, that's not in a sort of high-end situation. They don't know what it's like.
Mike, honestly, it's an absolute travesty what's going on in our industry at the moment. Yeah. An example would be a few weeks ago, one of my closest friends, who's a chef, his wife actually had to cut him down from a beam because he tried to hang himself.
Goodness.
And this is going on. I know 3 or 4 people in the same situation.
Yeah.
And the problem is, on that same day, Boris released a statement about his 10-point plan for a green revolution, and you just, they're so out of touch.
Yeah.
With reality.
I know.
At the
moment. It's so appalling, isn't it? And I mean, the thing that I'm surprised at, and I'm really pleased that we've got you on, Stuart, because we like to talk to ordinary people, ordinary working people who are just trying to get by, because I don't think enough people realise what it's like. I mean, it's been very easy for me to sit here in the studio doing shows every day because, I'm lucky enough to have a job where I can do that. But so many people that I know and I talk to just don't have a clue what next year's going to be like for them.
No, I mean, again, my brother and myself, working class kids, we started with nothing. We'll cut a very long story short for you, but we built our business up to be a multi-award winning business. Yeah. Just before this all happened, we invested heavily in our second hotel. We extended the bedrooms. We invested over £1 million into this business based on projections. Now, all of a sudden, obviously it didn't happen. We had to close.
Well, your projections weren't any more inaccurate than the government's ones, I'll tell you that.
No, well, how on earth are you supposed to secure any other investment now with no opening in sight? And they don't seem to get this.
No, exactly. And they can't really tell us because they're not in control of it. And the idea that they keep pretending they are in control of it, and every time something good happens, they make out that it's down to what they did, is rubbish. Because quite clearly, they haven't got a clue. I mean, Leicester, for example, has been in lockdown for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and nothing's changed. So any sensible person who was not an insane lunatic would think, well, maybe it's not working.
Well, you would think that, Mike. You really would. But, I mean, Conservative Party used to be the party for business, and they're not our friends right now.
No. I'm very disappointed, actually. They haven't been the party of small business for a long time, because I think even George Osborne put paid to that. The amount of red tape that you'll know about and the amount of taxes that small businesses have to pay is quite prodigious.
It really is. And if we don't secure the investment we need now, the industry is going to come. I mean, it's the 5th largest industry in the UK. If we don't secure the investment, it's going to collapse.
Are you able to get your hands on any grants? Because I know a couple of my restaurant friends were able to get a grant first time around of about, I think, 20,000, 25,000. Are you able to get any of that?
First time around, we were able to get a grant, but there's even rumours now Birmingham are not going to get the funding that's required. So that doesn't make it any easier. So yes, first time around, one of the venues got a grant, but the other one didn't get a grant.
Yes, and they've rather skillfully, have they not, sort of handed it all off now to the local sort of councils rather than coming out of central government, so you don't have to chase somebody else for it.
Yeah, absolutely. They've made it as difficult as possible. It's exactly the same as CBILS. When CBILS was first released, it was, it's the small print. They'll come and stand and tell you, they'll come and stand on the lectern and tell you all the headline bullet points, but it's the small print that really counts. It's so difficult to get this money that you need to survive.
So, I mean, difficult question to answer, really, but what can you hope for? I mean, can you hope that in 2 weeks they might revise it and get you back to Tier 2?
Oh, well, Tier 2, I think for the pubs is okay. I think for hotels, there's going to be a massive amount of job losses, Mike, in Tier 2. Tier 1, you're going to save all the jobs. Right. And we know that we can open safely in Tier 1 and provide that security that customers require. Tier 3, thousands, millions of people are going to be unemployed. It's going to be horrific.
It really is. Well, listen, Stuart, I can only wish you the best of luck, and thank you so much for talking to us.
And
Stuart,
that's not including the supply chains, Mark. So,
no.
Sorry, I just wanted to mention that the knock-on effect of supply chains is horrific, whether that be the farmers. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I know, it doesn't bear thinking about. I mean, Stuart, my heart goes out to you. Thank you so much for talking to us. He owns the Edgbaston Hotel, the Kenilworth Hotel, cocktail lounges inside those as well. As of tomorrow, a lot of people are going to be in Stuart's situation because so many areas are in Tier 3 still, right? Despite the fact that there doesn't appear to be any evidence to suggest that they need to be. All we're hearing from the government in the last 2 days is that the R rate's falling, that the numbers of people getting sick falling, the numbers of people going into hospital falling, the number of beds available rising. There are more beds available now than there were this time last year. It doesn't make any sense. And guys like Stuart, who are the backbone of this economy and the backbone of this country, are being punished, and they're not in any way, shape or form being compensated. £2,000 to £3,000 a month, as he says, for a business that needs £20,000 a week to break even. It's pathetic, isn't it?